recording here. All right, this is village board meeting on June 2nd, 2020. We'll open with a pledge to the flag, and we'll have a moment of silence. We need to really be considering our country and what all is happening there. So join me for the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which you stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you may be seated. We have no guests either by Zoom or in person. So we will go down to in your board packets. The first item is your minutes of our May 19th board meeting. You should have received those either by email or in the board packet. Give you a minute to look it over. Does anyone have any questions or concerns?
I apologize, Bill. I did not bring a copy up here.
He's got one.
Yeah, I should have done that ahead of time. I usually put it in this basket.
Make a motion to approve as read.
All right, I've got a motion from Bill Steer to approve the minutes as printed. And we got a second from Frixell. Any further discussion? Todd, go ahead and unmute yourself so you can vote with us. All right. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Everyone said aye. Also in your board packet is a treasurer's report. It should be at the end of your board packet. You guys remotely may not have gotten that. I don't know if she got that sent out to you or not. We have the warrant list and the payroll report for June 2nd. Did you get a copy of that? It's at the very end.
It doesn't matter. I looked at it today.
Yeah, it's at the last 2 pages of your packet. Nothing out of the ordinary on there. The publications that you see on there from Lampy and Gazette and the Shopper are for the notice that we put in the paper. We've got our American Legal Publishing. You'll see 2 on there for them. One is for them hosting us. It's our annual hosting fee of $4.95. The other is the keeping our ordinances current on the website for $150. So I will entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report at this time.
So moved.
Motion by Hoopengarner. Do I have a second?
Moved.
Second
I'll
by
second
Nate.
it.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll roll call it. Hoopengarner?
Yes.
Hoopengarner's yes. Steer?
Yes.
Steer's a yes. Frixell?
Yes.
The yes. And Gates?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
We've got 4 yeses. Motion passes. And we've got someone joining us by phone. Who's joining us?
It's Chris Johnson. I was just calling in to see if I could hear you guys vote on the chickens.
Okay, Chris. We'll be discussing that a little bit later on in our meeting here. So you're welcome to stick around until we get to it.
Sounds good. I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself so you don't hear my neighbors and whatnot.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, guys.
Brandon, can you give us an update on the engineer's report? They all should have a copy of the information that you sent me. We talked last time about the importance of doing a infrastructure plan, and could you kind of outline what you sent me?
Sure. Well, we talked a little bit last time about infrastructure planning for the community as a whole, and really the 3 main systems being the water system, the sewer system, and your road system. We talked about your road system probably being taken care of, planning with some of the work you're doing there in the MFT, so I would put that third in my opinion. We've talked a lot about the water system with the water tower, and then of course the sanitary system is aging as well. We can do as much or as little as you would like, and these are smart things to do to look for long-term planning. They're also important to get to prioritizing, budgeting, designing, and then ultimately applying for some of these grants that are available. One of the things I had suggested is maybe we meet with the committees to determine just what level you'd like to get into, whether it be all 3 systems village-wide or maybe something specific that you know is a priority. So what I did find, I know that we've been talking a lot about the water tower, and in 2017, when we were looking at the low interest loans that were available, we had submitted a proposal to begin to do this stuff with about a $12,000 planning report being due or proposed in order to determine that you did need a water tower in order to justify that for that low interest loan. So that's probably the range of something that you might look at if you were targeted on the water tower. If you wanted to do something a little bit broader with the water system, you might think in terms of maybe something a little bit larger than that, a $15,000 to $25,000 range, to begin to look at your entire system, some of the growth, some of the water mains, these sorts of things. But if you decided, you know, there's going to be rounds and rounds and rounds of these loan or grants available, let's go get ready to submit for the next go round or next year. I think you're looking at something in the neighborhood of $15,000 for the report, for the planning, to determine the size, to justify it. These are things that get tucked right into the grant application. And then we had shown a design fee of $42,500 on there with, don't forget about the geotech that would be needed. So I think in round numbers, you might be looking at $15,000 in planning and $50,000 in design to be able to have this thing ready to go. If you just wanted to look at a water tower. So those were some older numbers that I've rounded up here that, again, I could provide a detailed proposal if that was something that either the committee or the board as a whole wanted to go forward with. Or we could, again, step back and look even larger if you wanted to think about lagoons or water main upgrades. Again, it really is up to you of how much you want to look into this. But you know you need a new water tower. You know there's grant money going to be available, continue to be available. And if you just wanted to say, let's look at the water tower, I think, again, budgetary costs, you might be looking at 15 and then 50 for planning and design to be shovel ready for that thing.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Brandon? Like I said, this was something that we had talked about back in 2017. If we had moved forward on that back then, we would probably at least have our design or our plan done and would be ready to apply for some of these grants that are out there available. Unfortunately, we decided at that time not to move forward with doing that plan. And so now the question is, do we move forward with a planning report justifying the need for a new water tower, Or do we do something a little bit more and include in that not only our water tower, but our sewer system and our water mains and that along with it? I'm open for discussion here.
If I might add one more small thing, and if you're looking at that in the second page, just for reference, at that time, a couple years ago, we were thinking that the range of construction was probably in the range of 1.1 to 1.2 and 1.25 million dollars for the water tower. I wouldn't think that'd be drastically different. So you're looking for, you know, 1.3 million dollar total project cost. These grants are 25 million available. Maximum project right now is 2 to 5 million, depending on the grant. So a water tower does fit these sorts of programs that are available today that everyone expects to continue to be available as some of these Rebuild Illinois funds become available. So I just wanted to point that out, that total cost for this tank is probably certainly exceeding $1 million.
Right. And right now we missed out on the first round of these grant funds because we don't have a project that is shovel ready that we can even apply for these grant funds at this time. As Brandon mentioned, there is some talk because they are going to have to jumpstart this economy, that they will continue this infrastructure program. That's the main thing that they're wanting to see is infrastructure in our communities. So, you know, I really feel that we need to be ready in case these funds are available. If not, if they don't become available, we still need this planning report to apply for low interest loans. And we still need this planning report to move forward on a new water tower anyway. So, yeah, I know it's a lot of money, but I really feel that if we approve something like this at this time, we will have an opportunity to get a lot of these costs for our infrastructure paid for through some grants and some low interest loans. Anybody else have any thoughts?
That's just to get the project ready. So if we do the planning report, then that would allow us to, if they open these grants back up, to say, hey, here's our report. Or do we have to have someone in addition write a grant proposal for that?
We would need additional work on applying for the grants, and we would also need additional work on the design and engineering of it also. But the first step is just getting the planning report done.
That's the 15.
All right.
Design engineering is $50,000. Right now, then that would be in this.
Just the planning would be.
What we're talking about? Okay.
The
What
planning report is $15,000.
right? What Deanna asked was the planning report. The $15,000 for the planning report is our first step.
Correct.
And if we if that planning report comes back and shows that we do need a new water tower, a bigger water tower, which I'm sure it's going to, then our next question is, okay, do we take that next step and spend the $50,000 on the design and engineering part of that?
Would that,
Okay.
What was the one in 2017? We had some guys come
It's
up
in
with
here
it.
somewhere.
That's it. This is when Farnsworth brought, who was your water guy that you brought here to talk to us?
Joe Michalecki is his name.
Joe, yeah. That was not a plan. He was just kind of telling us the process and showing us what we would need to do.
We didn't spend any money at that time.
We did not spend any money at that time. Yes, we did not move forward with any planning or design or anything at that time.
Once you do a design, is that good for a while?
Yes.
Yes, the planning report is good, and it tells us basically that we need a new water tower. That's basically what the planning report does.
How long is that good?
And well, until things change, until we get a new water tower.
Well, I mean, say 3 years down the line, we say, okay, we're gonna go ahead and go with it. Is that still good, the planning?
Yeah, it might have to be updated if we got 2 or 3 new businesses in town and a couple apartment buildings. That might have to be updated a little bit, but it wouldn't be the additional $12,000. It would be an update from 2020 to 2023. What has changed? And I think the planning report, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, would the planning report also kind of help us determine where the water tower would go?
Exactly. You would look to all it's really crossing off a lot of the things that are in the applications themselves. Is, can you justify it? How big should it be? Where should it go? Do you own that property? Are there hurdles, environmental hurdles to that property? Do you have rights to connect to your system? These sorts of things. And then you just cut and paste a lot of that into the application. So yeah, it's really everything but design. And then the steps would be, you could stop there and then maybe design later, maybe get a grant to do design in the future. And then you would have a design sitting on the shelf, and then you would permit that, and that permit is good for probably a year, I think. And you could just re-permit if you had to. Then maybe you could bid it and get a real cost for it. That's to be the toughest step, is when would you bid it if you didn't have money lined up?
Yeah, so the first phase, or the planning report, would give us all the information that we would need to then go out and apply for any grant money that is out there. Once we apply for that grant money, then we would have to take that next step and do the design and engineering.
Right.
And actually put it out for bids at that time, probably.
Yeah, these 4 grants that are available right now, the first one, the fast track that we talked about last time, that one, you would need to have gone all the way through bidding in order to have that thing under construction in 90 days. But some of these do not have that requirement, that you could still yet permit it and then go to bid. So it depends on the funding source, but certainly having a planning report and probably a design and a permit would enable you to be shovel ready. It's a word we like to hear a lot of, shovel ready. Again, I think, in my opinion, you would go through design and be prepared to go to bid, and then maybe come up for air and think about what is the funding mechanism. Should we go to bid now or not?
These grants are all payback. No free money.
No, the grants that are currently out there right now, it's all free money. It is a grant. We do not have to pay that back. There are two pots of money out there right now. One is a fast track infrastructure grant that had to be done by, I forget what it was, June 2nd or something like that.
Yesterday, yeah, it was yesterday.
And the other one is due June 30th. But they're both, you've got to begin construction within 90 days. Those were a minimum of $500,000 to a maximum of $2 million.
2 different grants, and there one that you don't have to pay back, and one you do have to pay back.
Well, the other one is it's a combination. It's like the EPA, and they're more of loans, kind of what we did with the sewer, where there was a certain portion that they forgave, a certain portion of that. This is all federal money that is being proposed by the federal government to jumpstart the economy, to work on some of these infrastructure problems. So this is it's not free money. Nothing's free. We're paying for it.
Oh, yeah.
But it is money that the village would not have to pay back, but it would still give us an opportunity to build a new water tower, which is somewhere between $1 and $2 million. Any other thoughts?
How long does the design take?
The planning report or the design?
The design.
Okay, Brandon, any idea?
I think if we're going to do planning, well, we got to go to design also. We want to get one of these grants. We got to have.
Right. What kind of time frame are we looking at? Let's go with how long will it take to do a planning report and how long for a design?
I'm going to wing it a little bit here, but I would say 30 and then 60 for a total of 90 days.
Okay. So we're talking about 3 months to do the whole shebang.
And again, and that's assuming there's no property issues or environmental issues or geotechnical issues.
Right.
How long does it take for just the plan?
30 days.
Yeah, up to 90 days.
For the
60
design.
for the design for a total of 90.
So do we want to instruct our engineers to go ahead with just a planning report, or do we want to instruct them to go ahead and begin a planning report and design and engineering? That's kind of our options here.
What were Rod's comments? I couldn't hear what Rod said.
He said that basically, if we're going to apply for a grant, we're going to also need the design and engineering phase of it too, especially when they give us such a short time frame on these grants. So Rod's question or recommendation was if we're going to go for the planning report, we may as well go for the design and engineering so that we are ready, have it on the shelf so that if and when the money is available, we can get it. And if not, at least we have it for any low interest loans that will be made available to us.
If we do the design now, and who said it's possible to get a grant, could that be included in the grant?
Yes. Yes. The question was, how much of this would be available for reimbursement from the grant?
The ones that are out there today, none of it. Previously incurred costs are not eligible. Now you can roll these into the grant if you were, and that's why I say some of the design engineering may be able to be rolled into a grant later, but not these ones that are available now. So maybe you do the planning, take a breath, and then authorize the design. While I certainly agree with Rod, planning doesn't do really a whole lot of good. Maybe you just take that baby step, do the planning, and then maybe have a separate authorization for the design, just in case something pops up where you could get that design grant. The problem is one of them that's out there is a grant for design, but $50,000 for design when it might cost you 5 or 10 to apply for a grant. That would be a choice you'd have to make. We could certainly do the planning and then stop and consider the design at that time, or we could do them both. But most of these grants that are available today are not retroactive. If you spent the money, you're not going to get reimbursed for it. But what that does do is show that you have skin in the game. I think that a lot of these applications that are going down there that say we want all the money and we're not going to put in anything, I think are going to have less of a chance. Fred, I'd heard that for the fast track, 25 million is available, and last week they had 100 million in applications already.
Right.
Now, with all of this, could this be used from the funds that we have for water tower savings?
Right. Deanna's question was, can the money to pay for this planning and even the design and engineering be taken from our savings for our water tower? And that would be an appropriate use of that money. That's why we've been putting that money in there.
I don't have the figure in front of me, but I know we've got to at least have.
75,000.
And I think that's a compelling story in your application to say, listen, we were doing long-term planning for budgeting for the planning and design. You know, it's going to be difficult for a community your size to just squirrel away $2 million for a water tower. But you can squirrel away the prep money, the design, the planning, and maybe some small portion to leverage in the grant application. It says, you know, we're asking for 1 million and we're going to chip in 100,000 because that's what we have. But it's something.
Right. Lori just told us that we have 106,000 in our savings for a water tower at this time. So. All right. What is your pleasure?
Make it run.
I guess. Go ahead and do it. Huh? And the wagon.
All right, we have a motion by Weaver to move forward with the planning and design specifically for our water tower.
Second.
And we've got a second by Frixell.
Deanna already seconded.
Oh, sorry.
I can't hear her.
Yeah,
All right, sorry. I didn't hear her either.
Mhm.
Second by Hoop and Garner. Is there any further discussion? All right, we're gonna roll call it. Steer, yes. Weaver,
Yeah.
yes. Hoop and Garner,
Yes.
Frixell,
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Okay.
Way to go, Todd.
It has passed. All right, we will then, Brandon, I guess that gives you your marching orders. We would like you to begin a planning report and also look at the construction or the design and engineering for a new
Very
water.
good. Appreciate that. And I probably, and I don't probably, I will prepare a scope, a little more formal document for your use, exactly what it is we're doing and not doing, and some numbers in there for budgeting purposes. Thank you. I have my marching orders. Fred, as I had mentioned, I've got a couple of other obligations tonight. I don't know what else is on the, if you wanted to continue to look at other infrastructure planning or if this is enough bite for the evening.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other questions for Brandon?
Top of 30 days.
No, Jim and I are working on Duryea, so we'll update you on that. So I think that's all we got for you, Brandon. I appreciate you coming in.
Not a problem. I did want to add just one thing if I could. I did look through a lot of the remainder of the board packet with the things that Jim's got going on out at the lagoon, and I would concur with the things that he's doing. I know nobody asked for, but that's a smart way to try to clean those filters. Some of the things that are going on out there, if my opinion was asked for later in the meeting, it would be I concur. And the final bit later in the agenda was a point on the infrastructure grants that are out there, and I think I reviewed some of those. I don't know if there were any specific questions for that, Fred. Okay, very good.
I'm going to update them on
okay.
what's been happening. So.
Okay, so I haven't anything else. If nobody else has anything else.
All right, thank you very much.
Good. Thank you all very much. Have a great night. Stay safe.
You too.
Okay, Patrick, are you with us?
I am here. I had a small internet problem earlier, so I was trying to not use much bandwidth, but I got back on and made it back in. Looking at the agenda and seeing what's on there, as far as the resolution extending the emergency powers, I think it's something you can do. I'm not sure how you feel about the necessity of it at this point. At least that's a decision for the decision makers, not myself. But we're just seeing some other municipalities letting these expire because they really haven't been used. So just a note on that. Again, it's not my position to push it one way or the other. Just informing you of what we're seeing.
Right.
on there.
The only reason I would ask the board to consider extending the executive powers is, as we've seen, things are changing. You never know from week to week what's going to happen. The governor has loosened up the restrictions on our restaurants and bars, and in so doing, I made an executive decision basically to allow them to use their parking lots to put tables and move forward with that. You'll see in the board packet that of what I did, but that was in between our meetings, and I did not get the permission from the board to do that. So, you know, with things changing as quickly as they are, I think I don't see any problem with extending it for another 30 days.
Cuban Cafe had a sign out there, open for indoor seating.
Yes, they do. But I don't know how legal that is,
I
but
don't either. That's what I wondered.
so does anyone want to make that motion to approve resolution 2020-06-01 in reference to restoring the temporary executive powers?
So
So move.
Okay, I've got Frixell and Steer.
any way you want to put it.
I'll put Steer because he's here. And then
Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, we've got Caleb joining us now, so let's roll call it. Weaver,
Yes.
Frixell,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Hooper Garner,
Yes.
Steer.
Caleb.
Yeah, he hasn't joined us yet.
Oh, I don't know.
He's coming in,
Okay,
but
yeah, whatever.
he doesn't know what this thing is, so that's enough. We have it. We have the resolution passed.
So we have 5
Yes,
ayes and 0.
Caleb has not joined us yet. Caleb, are you with us yet?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. We just to catch up real quickly, we approved for Farnsworth to begin a planning report and a design and engineering for our infrastructure so that we could start applying for some of these grants that are out there. The other thing that we did is we approved the resolution to extend our executive order powers for another, well, it's not 30 days, it's 2 weeks until we meet again, so.
Okay.
Anything else for us? I know we've got some things later on for you, Patrick, but
Yeah, I thought it'd be more appropriate for me to just stay along in the meeting and be available as necessary. I see there's a couple other things with the fireworks and the chickens, and but I'll stay on the meeting and address those as they come up instead of trying to push it forward now.
all right, very good. Thank you. All right, we are down to committee reports. First one is appropriations. What you have in front of you is the 2021 appropriations ordinance. I don't think we're quite ready to pass this yet. We're still working on a few of the numbers and that on this, but this basically is taken off of the budget that we approved back in April. So I gave this to you for your ability to look it over. We will be, ready to pass it at our next meeting. We have to pass it by the first quarter. Is that correct, Patrick, I think?
Yeah, that's correct. End of the first quarter. So you've got, I would say the end of the month is a safe time. You've got another regular meeting in 2 weeks. You can address it then. Just take note, I think you have to have a public hearing on this as well. So you want to just make sure you get that notice out.
Okay. Yeah, we will notice it for a public hearing at our next scheduled meeting, and plan on voting on it at that time.
We're just gonna come up with that ourselves. We don't need to ask them to.
Yeah, I'll get it for you. You have anything else for us under finance? Okay. Nothing else under finance. We've got a lot under sewer. Since Todd is remotely with us here, I'll kind of take the lead on this and kind of go through all of the different things that are coming up on the sewer. The first thing up there is the refurbishing of the filter beds. As we told you the last couple of meetings, that we've been having some problems with we have 4 filter beds out at the sewer lagoon. They're not draining very well. It feels that they need to be updated. As Jim has been checking into it, the easiest and most cost-effective way to upgrade them is to purchase some new sand for the beds, and there is a company down south that actually comes in and cleans the sand for us. And Jim has talked to a couple of other sewer districts that have used them. They've been very happy with the way that they've worked out. One district that he talked to said the guy did it 14 years ago and the filters are still working correctly. So he informed me that these filters have not been cleaned or upgraded since they were put in. I think that was back in the 60s when those filters were first put in. So we've gotten our money's worth out of them, but now they need to be updated so that they will continue to work. As you see there, I sent you, we do not have, we have a quote on the actual cleaning of the filters. We have an estimate on the purchase of the sand. It's special sand that they put in there, and the closest place to get that sand is up in Lakin. It looks like we need at least 313 tons of sand at a cost of about $3,500, around there. That's an estimate. But that does not include the trucking. I don't know what it's going to cost to truck that much sand from Lakin down here. I would imagine that's going to be a few $1,000s to do that also. For the actual cleaning, we do have a proposal to clean, and Jim's recommendation is to do 2 of the filters, to see how that works. And then if we need to, do the other 2 at a later time. So to do the 2 filters, it's $9,000 plus the sand, which we had an approximate cost of about $3,600 plus the trucking of the sand, and I don't have a cost on that. Anybody have any questions or thoughts on?
On the proposal where it says total price 18,000,
Mm-hmm.
is that for all 4 then?
That would be for all 4,
Okay.
yes. Todd, do you have any thoughts or recommendations?
You know, he's been working this for a long time. I would go with what he thinks is right, what Jim thinks is right, go ahead and do the two and see how well they work. You might still be able to talk to him about getting a better price. Because he said if he did all four, it'd be 12,000. So you're getting them for 4,000 a piece.
But it's 9 for 2.
Right. It's if you do all four, it's 4,000 a piece per sand filter. So it'd be 16,000 plus if we did all four. The
160 tons per filter.
right.
So
Right, but this says-
640 tons of sand plus the haulage.
Right.
4,000 for each, or 9,000 if
For
you do
two.
two. That's 1,000 more to do two.
Right. And the reason it's more to do too is the travel.
4,000 each if they did all.
You'd have to do
Okay.
all
Yeah.
4 to get the 4,000 price.
Right.
Okay.
And that's because of the travel and the time it takes to do it. He's got to bring all his equipment up here to do it. So,
And then we'd have to deliver twice as much sand too.
right.
Who knows how much that's going to cost?
Well, it would basically double everything. Right now, we're
Yeah.
right at about $17,000 to do the two. So it would be a little less than double if we did all four. Yeah, and I think the other thing is
Lift station up there to do it.
if you
You
do
have a lot of, oh, sorry.
if you do all four at once, you're well, where's the water going to go when you've got to block off two of them, put the excess in the other two while you're cleaning this one out. So
Look, we have so much other on the agenda that we need money for. I think it's probably better or beneficial if we only do two right now, because we also need to televise the sewer mains at Lakeshore Drive. We need the rock. And I'm not sure, I didn't see anything on that new fan for the building at the lagoon. What kind of fan is he talking about and how much is it?
all right, that one is a moot point at this point.
Okay,
So yeah, basically, there are some other expenses that we're going to have to approve coming up here. So, that's Jim was good with doing two, seeing how it works, and if we need to do the other two at a later time, moving forward with that. So as I look at this, you've got $9,000 for the two, for cleaning of the two sand filters. You've got $3,600 for the sand,
For each?
just for one.
Plus the haulage.
Well, no, that's for two. That's for
Plus
two.
two.
And then I added another $3,500 for trucking. Is that right? 16.2.
Mhm.
It's about
40 miles.
4, yeah,
40 miles.
Hour, 2 hour round trip.
yeah.
Takes me 40, 45 minutes to get there.
And I know he was checking with Brooks to see if he would get a quote on hauling the sand for us. I imagine it's going to be at least a couple $1,000s because you can only haul so much on a semi, and you're talking.
yeah, how far is that away?
It's about 40 minutes away,
Okay,
so that's 156 ton. per, yeah. So about 300 ton. So that's a lot of trips, even in a semi.
We haul on semi, right?
Huh?
We haul on
22
semi.
ton.
Huh?
22.
Let's see.
Imagine semis are at least $90, $100
An hour.
an hour. So you get $200, so you're about $9 a ton.
Yeah, so it might be a little less than that, but. So I will entertain a motion to spend up to $17,000 to rehab 2 of the sand filters.
I'll make a motion for that.
All right, we've got a motion by Gates. Do I have a second? Second by Weaver. All right, is there any further discussion on that? All right, we'll start with Hoopengarner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Steer,
Yes.
Yes.
Brixell, Gates,
Yes.
and Weaver. All right, motion carried. The other thing that came up was the riprap around the sewer lagoon. There's so much water coming into that. They put concrete around that they've gotten from different construction sites and that to kind of keep the soil around the banks from caving in. The problem with that is there are large chunks of concrete and a lot of grass and stuff growing up around in and through that. And so our guys have to go out there and weed whack all of the weeds around the sewer lagoon. They asked to try purchasing some smaller riprap rock that would fill in around the larger chunks of concrete that are there to try to number one, stabilize the bank more, and to cut down on the amount of weed growth, weed whacking that has to be done around the banks. The estimate on here is $660. That would be for one semi load that they would just try. They don't know how far that would go, but they would try it to see if it would work, and then get an estimate on doing the whole sewer lagoon.
That's $700 just for one load.
Just for one load of smaller riprap that they would put in between the larger chunks that are there. Any thoughts on that?
I'm making a motion, we can go ahead and prove it.
All right, we have
I'll second.
Frixell to approve spending up to $700 for a riprap at the sewer lagoon. A second by Gates. Any further discussion? Roll call it. I think Steer.
Yes.
Steer is
Yeah.
a yes. Frixell is a yes. Gates is a yes. Weaver is a yes. Hoopengarner and Johnson.
Yes.
All right. Motion carried. The new fan for a building for the lagoon there, we had a fan that fried the motor on. That building has 2 large blower motors in there that we try to keep as cool as possible in there, but it's hard. They put out a lot of heat. Jim looked at getting an air conditioner for that building. He was talking with an HVAC person, and they said it would be a waste of money to try to air condition that. There's too much heat coming off of that, and It would just be running constantly and would not even be able to cool it down. They suggested getting a larger fan, and ended up giving Jim one that he has put in there to see if that's going to work. If it works, there's no charge for it. It doesn't cost us anything. It was out of an old furnace, one of those big, moves a lot of air, cage fans, what they call them, I think. So he had a spare one that he wasn't using, and it was taken out of an older furnace. So he's just using that now. So there's no action needed on that. But the other thing under sewers is the televising of the Lakeshore Drive. Again, this kind of goes along with the Duryea property that we talked about last week, or the last meeting, and also other properties along Lakeshore Drive that are experiencing some backups in their storm sewers. Jim is requesting that we approve that they actually camera the whole Lakeshore Drive sewer main. I forget, 170 feet or something like that is what he's looking at televising there.
Yeah, it's not more than 1,000. 1,700.
Yeah, it could be. I don't remember what he said there.
If he's doing a whole Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah. So he contacted a couple of places and just got some verbal quotes on it. The Hair, which is the company he typically uses for that, to do that, they've got to bring in a big vac truck, clean out the sewer main first, and then run the cameras in there. They thought that they could do the whole thing within a day with travel, and that figured 10 hours at an approximate cost of $4,800. He also called Hunter Hydrovac, or whatever they're called. They have a minimum of just coming out at $1,800. They're working on giving him a quote on doing the whole thing. But he figures if Hare said it would be 8 hours, he figures that for the Hunter. So they're a little cheaper at about $3,600 if they were to do it for 8 hours. It might be more than that. He doesn't know yet. But he's wanting to get this done as soon as possible because of the problems that they're having down there with all the rain that we've been having here recently. When Ameren hired this company to come in and do their replace the gas lines along Lakeshore Drive, and that they actually took pictures of the laterals, the ones going into the houses, so that they wouldn't hit them as they were drilling in these gas lines. As he was looking at he was able to get their footage of their camera, and several of them were underwater, leading him to believe that there's roots or something in our main lines that are slowing the flow of the main sewer lines from emptying completely and backing things up. So he would like that televised so he can tell where there are problems and how they can be rectified. So without a complete quote, it looks like somewhere around $5,000 would do all of Lakeshore Drive for him, is what he's wanting to do. So,
Is this taking care of Duryea's problem?
It will not take care of Duryea's problem because Duryea's problem is his lateral going to his house is actually below the
Main.
sewer main. So the only way to take care of Duryea's problem is to put a new sewer line, a whole new sewer line from the sewer main to his property, which they would have to raise above our storm sewer. But to do that, they would have to put in an ejector pit so that his sewer line from his house would have to go into an ejector pit, and then it would have to be pumped up to a new sewer line that would go across. So we're getting quotes on that, but this televising will not alleviate his problem because as they televised it before, his whole line is completely underwater. So it's lower than the sewer, the main, so it's always going to be full because water always goes to the lowest point.
You guys have any problem? You were back up your barrier?
I don't, but maybe.
Yeah. All right, is there, do we want to proceed with the televising at not to exceed 5,000?
Make a motion, we approve it.
We have a motion by Hoopengarner to approve not to exceed $5,000 for televising Lakeshore Drive sewer mains. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And we've got second by Gates. Is there any further discussion? I forget where we are.
Frickville.
All right, seeing none, let's vote. Frickcell,
Yes.
Gates?
Yes.
Gates is a yes. Weaver, yes. Hoopengarner?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
And Steer?
Yes.
All ayes. Motion passes. Do you have anything else for us, Todd?
That's enough.
Thank goodness, no. That's it.
All right. Let's move on down to streets and alleys. Brad, what you got for us?
The rental of the skid loader for a room. Pea gravel there on Field Goal.
All right, what Rod is talking about, you guys probably can't hear him, but we've had some complaints about the pea gravel from when we did the chip and seal overall, especially on Phil Gould Drive and Joe Lynn Court and that. A lot of pea gravel that is left over from that. Our street department wants to rent a skid steer with a broom on it to clean up the gravel. In there, you'll see that the skid steer is $515 for a day or $127 for a week with a sweeper on it. $12.70, what I say? Oh, $12.70 for the week. So is that a motion for a day?
Yeah, because, you know, the discussion was whether Jim wanted to use it. That's how
Right.
he's gonna use it. We're gonna go a different way.
Yeah.
We had talked about renting it to remove the filter sand. We might have to do that.
Yeah. All right, so Rod is making a motion to approve the rental of the skid steer with a sweeper attachment on it for $515. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We got a second from Hoopengarner. Any further discussion? And roll call. Gates.
Yes.
Gates is a yes. Weaver's a yes. Hoopengarner's yes. Johnson.
Yes.
is a yes. Steer is a yes. Frixell
Yes.
is a yes. All right, motion carried.
Now, will they go over town as much as they can?
Yeah, it's a day.
So whatever they can do in a day.
They'll do, yeah, they'll do whatever they can for a day. You got anything else for us? All right. Police and planning. I don't know, Caleb, if you had a chance to look at your board packet yet. There's nothing new on the fireworks. I let them know that the board requested a lease agreement, and they had to have some information on parking for the place they were leasing, and they also needed to provide restroom facilities or something of that nature for people that were coming. And we needed to do background checks on all of their employees before we would consider issuing them a permit.
And half the property's not in the village anyway.
Yeah, that's our ace in the hole there. We'll talk
if
about
we
that.
wanted to.
So they have not gotten back with me on whether or not they want to pursue it, but at this time, I have no further information than what we had the last time.
Yeah, so I figured it was going to be a moot point since we didn't have the property in there. Do you want to just go in order then?
Sure, go ahead.
So then everybody has the chicken thing. I was going to mark this up and send it back, and I did not have any time to do that with work. But
okay, before we go on, Chris, are you on with us still?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we are now discussing the possibility of passing an ordinance on allowing chickens in the village limits. So go ahead, Caleb.
so we still have to get this drawn up. I mean, this isn't in the right form, or
Yes.
Right.
right. So, I mean, most of it's good. I mean, I don't see the purpose of a permit to have a couple chickens, I guess. I think we're going to have to keep track of that. And if you don't have to have a permit to have a bunch of dogs at your house with the village, then I don't see what the purpose of having chickens permitted is. But everything else on here is not too bad. It says no slaughtering of chickens within the village. I don't see a problem if somebody has a couple chickens and they're past their prime and they're supposed to leave town to put them in the freezer. But I think if you're only limited to 6 chickens at your house, you got to put them a couple at a time as they get out of their egg laying prime. I don't see the problem with somebody processing them at their house. No different than somebody bringing home a deer and processing it at their house, which they're allowed to do. Otherwise, the rest of it seems pretty standard. I don't have a problem with much of it. I mean, keep it safe, keep it sanitary, limit it to 6 chickens only, no roosters.
All right, just so that Chris knows what we're talking about here, the committee did some research and they came out with a draft copy of an ordinance. And basically, it reads, any person wishing to keep or maintain chickens within the village of Hannah City must obtain a permit at the village hall. All fowl must be kept in compliance with the following requirements. A, no person shall keep or maintain more than 6 chickens in any residential area within the village limits. Roosters are prohibited. B, chickens are only permitted on a lot with a single-family dwelling which shall be inhabited on a full-time basis. No chickens permitted at multifamily dwellings. C, a pen, poultry house, or other structure shall be located behind the rear plane of the existing dwelling, not in a front or side yard, and maintained in a clean and sanitary condition at all times. Said structure must be located at minimum 10 feet from existing property and at least 15 feet from any adjoining property line. D, shelter of chickens shall be covered and ventilated to protect animals from inclement weather and predators. Electric service to the structure shall not be provided by an extension cord. E, storage vessels for containing feed shall be impervious to pest and vermin. F, no slaughtering of chickens within the village. G, chickens must be maintained in a humane condition. H, waste must not be stockpiled to create a nuisance or odor. I, chickens kept in pursuant to this section must be kept in a manner as to not cause inconvenience or disturbance to other persons by reasons of noise, odor, or nuisance. J, any person who violates, neglects, or refuses to comply with, or who resists or opposes the enforcement of any provision of this chapter, upon conviction thereof, shall be fined no less than 50, no more than $300. Any such person shall be deemed guilty of a separate offense for each and every day during which said violation continues. That is the proposed ordinance that was brought to the village to consider.
So I forgot to, C doesn't, I can't make sense of C. It said such structure must be located a minimum of 10 feet from the existing property and at least 15 feet from any adjoining property line. That, I don't know what that means.
Has to be 10 feet.
It's got to be 10 feet away from,
A house, from a structure. 10 feet away from a structure and 15 feet from adjoining property lines.
what's our setback in in R1 zoning for a shed on rear side?
10% of the property width.
Okay. I mean, we could just copy that even
Right.
instead of making it hard, instead of making something separate. Yeah, I mean, most of it's good. I mean, keep it clean. It's probably more thorough than our regular ordinance on animals as far as keeping it clean and humane. I don't know if anybody feels strongly about the permit part of it, but I don't, if you don't have a permit for having 4 giant dogs in your backyard, then I don't, that we don't keep track of, then I don't know what the point of having a permit for chickens is.
All right.
And you could change A and B. You could probably combine into one and say it's only allowed in like R1 zoning. And then you wouldn't have to worry about doing the single family and, the residential area. Just say it's going to be only allowed in R1. That'll take care of full-time, single family. That'd kind of wrap both those up in something that's concise.
All right. The other thing, question I have for you is, did you discuss, or are you, instead of just chickens, any fowl? Because I know there are some people that want ducks also.
I was thinking only chickens. I don't know.
Yeah, I would have to second that with Gayla. I mean, ducks can start to get quite loud. And turkeys too.
Yeah, turkeys for sure extremely loud. I mean, ducks are, I'm not an expert, but I know some can be extremely loud and some can be quiet, and I don't know how you're going to distinguish that with people unless you go to, I'm leaning towards just chickens. They're pretty cut and dry and pretty quiet.
The only other thing is under J, I would request that the fine should be no less than $75, which would be in line with all of our other ordinance violation fines there.
Agreed.
Caleb, I'm in agreement with you on the one part as far as slaughter of the chicken.
The
I mean,
what?
as long as it's not a full-time thing, if they're not doing, just raising chickens to slaughter, raising the chicken to slaughter.
Yeah.
If it's one that's aged out.
Yeah. With 6 at a time, you're not going to be
doing that.
What are you supposed to do? I mean, to dispatch a chicken in town and to butcher, it's going to be, nobody's going to know,
Yeah, and we'll have to check with Patrick and try to figure out how best to word this. But I think that the intent of that is we don't want to make it a place where people can slaughter chickens and sell them to others. It's more of, if you want to slaughter them for your own use, that's one thing, but we don't want to make allow slaughtering and selling of.
Yeah, kept for personal use. You're not going to run a business. I mean, it's for non-commercial. Maybe Patrick will help us start this language, but you're keeping the chickens for a non-commercial purpose for personal use only. You're not, the purpose isn't to raise them to sell slaughtered chickens. That might be the better way to get after it than prohibiting slaughter, period, is to, you're not going to run a home business with them. It's for, personal consumption only or something.
Yeah. Chris, you've kind of heard our discussion. Do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm on board with just about everything. I did you kind of broke up. What was the bit about the extension cords?
Basically, it's if you're going to have a chicken coop out there and you need to have electricity to it, it has to be wired in. We won't allow just extension cords
Okay.
back of your house to power it. It's more of a
It's like a
safety.
building ordinance, basically. Yeah. Like it'd be
Okay.
like an ordinance violation kind of for building code. You can't just stretch power cords across your backyards to power another building.
No, I get that. I didn't catch it. And then you guys talked about the 10 feet or the, what was it, 30% property line or whatever from a structure.
Right.
Does that include like a shed or garage? That's because personally, like my shed or my garage is pushed back probably 20 feet behind my house. And then if I was to put a coop behind that, it'd be another probably 30 feet total from my dwelling, but not from my garage.
Yeah. I would think that the way it would be worded, and these aren't exact wordings yet, we'll have to have our attorney kind of work on the exact wording of it, but I would say from the residents.
Yeah. Primary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. I was kind of confused by their wording. I was like, because a lot of the people in the city are probably going to want to throw it on the back side of their garage. It'd make wiring easier. It'd make a lot of things easier.
Yeah, put it right to your garage and just extend off your garage for your coop. So.
Yeah.
Exactly. Take advantage of a free fourth side. Just build 3 and you're done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it be away from the primary structure on the property.
15 feet from the adjoining property?
Yes.
No, I think this is great, guys. I really appreciate you guys, even considering it and talking about it. And I can tell you right now, there's a lot of people in town really interested. And I think as long as you have these set parameters, there's a responsible way that we can do it, and just, make sure everyone's safe and comfortable with it. And I think it can be successful.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on this? All right. It looks like we're in agreement on this. What we will do is we will have our attorney take this draft and plug it into our ordinances, and we will have something for us to vote on at our next meeting then.
Okay.
Chris, before you leave, I know you're on the Planning Commission. I'll just let you know that we will be having a public hearing on some annexations coming up June 15th at 6 p.m. here at the City Hall.
Sounds good. Will you still be sending a text or no, in case something happens?
Yes.
The world shuts down again or something?
Yep. Well, I'll be sending you the information prior to that. But just while you were on, I thought I'd let you know.
Thank you, sir. You guys have a good night now.
All right. Anything else under police and planning?
The approval of the update of the ordinance. Looks like we want to add a liquor license.
Yeah.
Already did.
All right. Basically, what happened here is we have already approved this.
Just the gaming.
No, this was when we allowed Refuel to have a liquor license.
Oh, yeah.
We made a mistake back in 2019 when we allowed them to come in. We used an old ordinance that had a different classification of licenses that were no longer available. That's why we we went with American Publishing to codify all of our ordinances and clean it up. We were looking at 2 different ordinances, and one of them still had a Class C license for a liquor license in there, which we several years ago did away with a Class C license. A Class C license basically was for bowling alleys and things that had other businesses that would allow them to sell alcohol also. And we did away with that classification several years ago. So this ordinance that you see in front of you basically puts our Class A license, which is the regular consumption on premises, the retail selling of alcohol for on-premise consumption. So far, we have Gills, we have Hannah City Tap,
And Sports Club.
and several years ago, the Sportsman's Club decided to get a Class A license instead of using the club license because of the hours. So they have one of the Class A license. That's what we were allowed at that time, was 3 Class A's. With refuel coming in, they would also be a Class A. So we had to update our ordinance to allow a 4th Class A license. It doesn't affect any of the other ordinances surrounding the businesses or the liquor licenses. Everything else stays the same. We're just upping that to allow refuel to have a liquor license. So I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2006-01 to approve 4 Class A liquor licenses.
So moved.
Second.
By Johnson, second by, I think that was Gates. I heard a second there. Any further discussion? I have no idea where we are.
Let's go with Weaver.
All right, roll call. Weaver. Hoopengarner is a yes.
Yes.
Johnson is a yes. Steer
Yes.
is a yes. Frixell
Yes.
is a yes. And Gates
Yes,
is a yes.
yes.
All right, motion passes.
So I will be giving Refuel a new license that says Class A instead of Class C.
Right. Since we
If
don't have
Patrick's still on,
class.
that's what he said too. We had already done it, so thanks,
Yeah.
Patrick.
All right.
Now, on the liquor license, are they allowed to have the liquor outside the building?
They are under our temporary orders.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's coming up later in our
Okay.
discussion here. Anything else on police and planning, Caleb?
No.
Okay. Water.
I didn't get anything for approval of checks, but I did physically approve $200. Oops, I meant $200 in water escrow refunds,
How many checks?
2 checks. And that's all I have. I don't have any water notices. Then I guess we need a air conditioner for the water building.
You read it.
For $300. So I guess I can just vote. I can just approve that on committee.
All right. We needed a new air conditioner at the water building across the street underneath the water tower. And Menards had one on sale, so we ended up purchasing one for $299. We'll get a rebate, so it's in your packet there. That has been approved.
That's it for water.
Okay, buildings and grounds. Mr. Steer, do you have anything for us, sir?
No, sorry.
Okay, nothing on buildings and grounds. All right, if you'll look, finance. I'm sorry, we need a motion to approve the treasurer's report and pay all outstanding bills, by the way. Did we do that?
I thought we did.
Did we do that? I don't remember doing that.
We didn't.
Yes. Deanna motion, Todd seconded. That was under the treasurer's report, not under,
Okay,
not under finance.
very good. That's taken care of. All right. My mistake. All right. Under other business, as I told you, as you probably heard, the governor has lifted some of the restrictions on our businesses to allow them to temporarily open on an outdoor basis. Still, the restrictions for inside is still in effect, but if they could serve food and liquor on an outside basis, it's up to the communities to allow that. Our businesses wanted to open, and so I made up a document that would allow them to open on a temporary basis. You'll see in your board packet, temporary outdoor restaurant and bar space guidelines that I put into effect for them to open on May 29th. Basically, they are allowed to use their parking lots or areas around their building. They have to follow the state COVID-19 guidelines. They have to create a visual boundary of the outdoor seating area using caution tape plan or something to show where they can go so that they're just not walking around anywhere on the property. It has to be cordoned off in some way. It doesn't have to be physical barriers, but something to show that that's where they can have their food and alcohol. They have to have signage to show directions on where to go, using single-use menus. I restricted the hours that they could be in operation from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. Everything else there is pretty much standard there for you. You can look at that. So those were the guidelines that I put into effect to allow them to open on May 29th. It is up to you guys now to determine if you approve these guidelines, and tell them if you don't approve them, then they will not be able to open. If you approve these guidelines, you're basically approving what I have set down in my executive order, and we can go from there.
And the ones we know of opening are?
The businesses that have opened so far are Refuel, Sportsman's Club, Hannah City Tap, and the warehouse just started opening, I guess Sunday night. They put some tables out there. I still have to talk with them about some barriers that they need to put up there, but they weren't going to open up right away. They were going to wait a while to see how things were going. The Hog Trough, they didn't want to spend the money for additional outdoor seating. I think they have a couple of picnic tables there. So if people want to sit at the tables, they can, but they're still doing mainly carry out. Gills is doing mainly carry out too. All right, so I've got a motion by Steer to approve the temporary outdoor restaurant and bar space guidelines. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by
I'll
Weed.
second it.
Gotcha. All right, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Hoopengarner,
Yes.
Yes.
Johnson, Steer, Frixell,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes,
and Weaver.
yes.
We got you. All right. the Rebuild Illinois Public Infrastructure Grants, and Brandon basically told you, the first round has been submitted. Like I said, there were $25 million of grant money appropriated for that. They had over $100 million worth of applications for that first initial group of grants. There is another grant application that is due by the end of June. I think that's already, from my understanding, that's already exceeded the amount that they had allocated. There was another $25 million for the state of Illinois that was allocated for that, and I think they've already exceeded that one also. I don't have any update on the coffee can. I know that the EMS automation, which is the robotics plant that is open up, they have
I have
moved
an update.
moved in there, and
Yes, he said that they're going to start tearing down the house on the 27th.
okay. Myrna just told me that she has talked with Mr. Gully and that apparently the purchase of the house has gone through, and they will be tearing down the house on the 27th of June.
Do they have to have a destruction permit for that?
They will, yes. So yeah, I had not heard that they'd set a date yet for the closing, but that's, well, I'll tell you what happened there.
Yeah, there's more to it.
There's a lot more to it than that. No, the only update I have on the BDD and the TIF is that they do have all of the legal descriptions done. By our next meeting, we should be able to approve all of that. Update on replacing the village administrator in your packets. You'll see the ad that was put in the Journal Star, the Glassford Gazette, the Farmington Shopper, and the Weekly Post out of Elmwood. Also, there's the position description of the village administrator. Look that over, see if you have any questions on that. We hope to have some resumes back by the 10th of June, I think is the date I put on there, so that hopefully by our next meeting, we'll let you know if anybody has applied for the position. Update on the later sent. Okay, Patrick, this is where I'm going to need you. We're still working. Most of the people have been in compliance with the letters that we sent them. There was one letter that we sent was in violation of our noise ordinance. We did end up sending them a fine notice. That was back in middle of May, I believe. They have not paid that fine. They have not even responded to the notice. So our next steps, and Patrick, this is where I need you to tell us what our next steps are.
Well, to keep it very simple, we go to court and enforce the fine. That means proving the violation occurred, establishing what the ordinance is, what the person did, and when you hit those two marks, then you're entitled to the fine, and the judge will award at that time, supposing you meet your burdens. So that's the very, very simplified version. Good news is for municipalities, and I just checked with our office on this, there's not a filing fee for us. Normally when we walk into the courthouse with the lawsuit, even a small claims one, it's a fee of over $100 just to the courthouse. We don't have that, so that's good. But I guess the only thing I would say keep in mind is that it's just your cost benefit analysis. where we're seeking to enforce a fine of $75, and what are we willing to spend to do that? We're in our office able to do these through mostly our paralegals. They do great work. They handle a lot of the legwork, and that keeps your costs down. But as soon as Bill or I or Mike, any of the three attorneys have to go to court on it, that can be, that's where it just maybe wouldn't be cost effective. But that's your decision to make, because there's also your enforcement and your inherent authority as the municipality to make sure your ordinances are complied with, and that your notices are not ignored, your fines are not ignored. So if we were to pick it up from here and move it forward, what we would do is file I think it's considered a small claims complaint, but we get an ordinance violation caption because the claimant and the plaintiff is a municipality. At that point, it is a fast-moving process. At least in my world, it moves fast. We get a court date, at which point the defendant should appear. If they do not appear, that's a very easy process. Then we get a default judgment and the amount we're asking for, plus some additional court costs. We don't get those go to the court, but what it means is the defendant, instead of paying the $75 fine, would be paying $75 plus probably $200 to $300 in additional fees to the courthouse. So just filing the complaint gives them an incentive to just pay the fine and be done with it, even though they've already ignored it once. If they do show up and contest it, then we usually get a court date. That's normally about a month after they appear. We have a standing block time of at the courthouse where we can have these. I think it's I want to say Thursday mornings. I would have to look in the office, but at a minimum, it's monthly. It might be every 2 weeks, depending on our caseload. At that time, we would probably have to call witnesses as to who saw what, and that means meeting with village personnel, whoever has received the report. Essentially, the witnesses would be the neighbors who made the report, and proving the violation up. Once we go through that process, the judge will be in our favor or against us. The only thing I'll caution you on is with the amount at stake, they generally don't hire an attorney, and judges can be lenient on people, defending themselves against an attorney. But doesn't mean we can't prove our case. It just something to look out for. Sometimes they hold you to a little bit higher standard than they should have, but I don't think that's ever been an issue that we can't overcome. Just something you need to know about. So to move it forward, it's really simple. We can get we show a copy of that letter to the paralegals. We'll put a simple complaint together and get it on file. You'll have the service fee of that, where the complaint will be served on the defendant. The service fee, I want to say, is $60. That's what we pay the process server to deliver it and make sure we obtain jurisdiction over the defendant. So I guess that's a lot of talking. Short answer is, let us know if you want to move forward. Our paralegals will put together a complaint. An attorney will review it. It'll be served on the defendant, and for that, we're looking at the service fee, which I said is probably around $60, and then our paralegals' time, which could be anywhere from a half an hour to 2 or 3 hours, depending on if there's anything funny that shows up once we get started. But knowing what we know now, I would expect it to be straightforward. So it's easy to get it on file if you want to move it forward. and you can drop it at any time if you feel like the cost is not worth it. But I usually, at a bare minimum, we go to the first court date, and if no one shows up, then we're ready to go. We got our judgment.
All right, so basically, I mean, we're looking at probably close to $200 just to get it filed at the courthouse and to have the person served. And then if he contests it, probably at least double that, if not more.
Probably more than double, I would say. I mean, you figure, you know, I don't know what our attorney rates are through the municipalities, but my standard litigation rate would make it much higher. So,
and then if they rule in our favor, then we get awarded the $75 fine. Is that correct?
right. I'm not sure of anything out there that would allow you to recover your attorney's fees for enforcing your own ordinances. That's usually not how it works.
So the question then for us is, do we move forward and have them file the case, the ordinance violation in the court, and see where it goes from there? That's the question. This is a noise complaint where we sent them a violation notice. Where we had several complaints filed through the sheriff's office. And then we sent them a notice saying, hey, we've received these complaints. Keep your noise down. After we sent them the notice, we received more complaints, and I think there are a total of 4 police calls to the residents that they took reports on the noise violations. So
Did the deputies observe any of it?
it was documented. The last complaint was documented, and that was when we sent them the violation notice.
So the deputy did get to at least witness one of them. He didn't show up and it was already shut off by then every time.
Right. The final one was there, yes.
It
And
was still going on when he got there and he could hear it, and
correct, yes.
he could attest to the fact that it was too loud. And
Correct, yes.
The music.
Working out in his yard or something. He air compressor, and it was like midnight or something like that. So yes, we do have. I mean, it's. I think we have a fairly strong case. We would have to call witnesses. We would have to call the neighbors, and we would have to call the sheriff's deputies that made the report. But I feel confident that we could probably win the case. I also feel confident it'll probably cost us, if it went to court, probably around $1,000. But
Do you think we'd ever get the money, even after that?
right, and then the question is,
Probably not.
even though he has a court order to pay, will he pay? Who knows?
And then it's only 75.
And what if you don't pay?
If he doesn't pay, would we be able to put a lien?
Yeah, at that point, you've got a judgment against him, so you can record a judgment lien against the property.
Yeah, yes.
We're never gonna get
And the property is in foreclosure too, by the way.
Well, are we sure the property's in foreclosure?
The last I heard it was. I haven't checked on it personally, but
Okay. Well, as a practical matter, then you would probably receive nothing.
correct.
Just the foreclosure is going to take precedence. I don't want to get into a big discussion about how foreclosure works, but just be assured that if they're already working on one that's before yours, it's going to get paid before your lien does.
Sure.
So,
we've been down that road.
yeah, I mean, it's not not a real complex math problem at that point of, are we first in line, second in line? And if you're not at the head of the line, or I guess in this case, that someone else is already
Ahead of it.
And moving forward.
So what's our pleasure? We want to move forward, or do we just hope he gets foreclosed on and moves out of town?
Yeah. Well, so just put this option out there. On a lot of these, we get default judgments where people just, if they tore up the fine, they might tear up the summons too, and not show up. And then you got your, your judgment and your lien for, not the $1,000 you're looking at after a challenged hearing. You're looking at it, like you said, probably closer to that 200. Don't quote me on that number, but I know the service fee is going to be 60, maybe 70 now. I'm not sure. Usually that runs through the paralegals, but between the complaint and the service fee, you're going to be over the 75 that's owed. I mean, that's just a fact. But if we show up the first day of court and no one's there, you've got a little bit of attorney time going in, but you've at least got a judgment and you've made your statement that you will enforce the ordinances. Whether or not you get anything out of it, you have sent that message. And you can't just say, yeah, I tore the fine up and nothing happened.
What we could do is go ahead and have them file the ordinance violation for the minimum fee. Basically, you're around the $200. And then if he contests it or tries to show up in court, we may drop it at that point. We may not spend the extra $800 to $1,000 to take him to court on it. We could then drop the complaint at that time. Is that correct, Patrick?
Yeah, because you're pursuing it. It's your choice to move forward or to dismiss it.
If we move forward on the initial phase, we may recoup some of it, we may not. But at least it shows that we are enforcing our ordinances. Do we want to spend the money to make a statement? That's kind of the
I do too. If you're not going to enforce your ordinances, then why have them?
Right.
There's no use even sending out notices.
All right. So anyone else have a thought? We got Weaver and Steer saying, let's enforce our ordinances. Anyone else? I see a thumbs up from Johnson and a thumbs up from Rixell and Gates saying, let's enforce our ordinance. So with that, we will instruct our attorney then to move forward to issue an ordinance complaint violation against the property owner there. Don't have the number of the residents in front of me, but I'll get it for you on Hannah Street.
Yep. Yeah.
So, all right, we will move forward on that. Thank you, Patrick.
Happy to help.
Update on communication with businesses. Again, I sent them the letter. I sent them some information also today for a webinar that's put on by the University of Illinois Extension on how to open up their business in the COVID times here. So I am still communicating with them as I get information in. I try to push it out to our businesses so that they know. I just got some information today that there is some grant money out there for businesses. I'll be pushing that information out to them. Unfortunately, there's such a short time frame in all of this stuff that a lot of our businesses don't pursue it. But I'll at least get them the information. The final thing, a couple things left on our agenda is a electrical aggregation. We let you know that in June, the electrical aggregation that we have with Good Energy is they're putting it out for bids. Back in 2012, when we first went through the electrical aggregation, we did a resolution. There is a bid date set. There's 2 of them set. I forget the exact date. Wednesday, June 17th, I think, is when they're doing the first bid opening for the electrical aggregation. Yes, Wednesday, June 17th. It'll be done by Zoom. I've got a resolution here. I think I put it in your packets here of the people that are present, but it's the one that we passed back in 2012, authorizing a person to accept the bids and an electrical supply agreement. And the authorization is authorizing the president and or the village attorney to execute the contract on behalf of the village. That would be resolution number 2020-06-02, which would allow us then to sign the papers for the village in the village's best interest to move the electrical aggregation forward. Anyone have any questions about that?
Is this going to be the whole group again, the county and other?
Right, yeah, this is the same group that we've been involved with since 2012 when electrical aggregation was first started. I have to fill out a form to them as who our representatives would be, and I figured, well, and instead of doing that, we'll just do the resolution, and that outlines that the attorney and myself would be the ones to approve the bid process. All right, anyone want to make the motion to approve resolution 2020-06-02?
So moved.
Motion by Hoopengarner, second by Weaver. Any further discussion? We need a roll call on that, and start with Hoopengarner. Hoopengarner's yes. Johnson? Yes.
Yes.
Steer is a yes. Frixell? Give me a thumbs up. He is a yes. Gates is a yes. And Weaver is a yes. All right, motion passes. The only other thing that I have for you is that our next board meeting will be June 16th. At that time, we will have a public hearing at the beginning of our board meeting. The public hearing will be for the appropriations ordinance and for, we have 3 pre-annexation agreements that we will need to approve. Yes, I will tell you right now. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. The pre-annexations that we will be looking at our public hearing on the 16th will be Prescott on what's the road there? It's off of Eden Road, Summerfield.
Summerfield Road?
Yeah, we've got, I think, 2 of them on that road. It's Brenda's sister's property that they bought there on, I think it's Summerfield. Well, what's the other side of Summerfield? I forget. But anyway, down there, I got the address on my desk. Okay. The other one is for Rod Weaver up on Eden Road. He has purchased some property that he would like to have pre-annexed. The other one is, it's a one that we thought we had done before previously. That property on the corner of Murphy Road and 116 that is owned by OPM Realty. Apparently, when they first requested the annexation, they gave us the address of the residence, but it did not include the other parcel. There were two PIN numbers, two parcels of land there. One had a residence on it that had the address, and so that's what they submitted to us. But then when they gave us the map, it showed both parcels on there, and we didn't catch it at the time. So we just did the legal description on one parcel instead of both parcels.
Property.
Right.
House.
Right. And so what brought that to our attention was when this guy came to want to put up the fireworks place, we got looking, and they're actually not in the village. They're actually in the county, because we only really did the property where the house sits. So we are rectifying that, so we're adding that other piece of property to it.
Where was the other on Summerfield? You said two of them.
The other that we've already pre-annexed.
Farming.
Yeah, that one. I think there's another one on the other side of Summerfield. I know we've got two on Summerfield that we've already pre-annexed.
You said we vote on them next week.
The one we're voting on next meeting is Prescott.
We're voting on three.
We'll be voting on three: Prescott, Weaver, and OPM Realty.
Weaver's out right now.
Right. So we'll be voting on three, and we'll have a public hearing at the beginning of our meeting.
I wonder if Rod will show up for the public hearing.
I don't know. All right. Is there anything else that we need to discuss or be working on? We gave Patrick a lot of work to do. We'll give him this chicken ordinance and the filing of the ordinance violation.
What's pontoon boat up there on Rockland Street?
That's one that has not been issued a violation yet, but we did take a picture. We will be issuing that violation. Most of our ordinance violations, they have moved forward and cleaned up most of the places. So.
Good.
All right. I have nothing else. No one else has anything?
You got the folder. Stuff the escrow. You voted through that. That folder.
There is stuff in there.
And what's this?
That folder that Deanna gave you for water.
That's it, the one you got,
The one that
Yeah,
you first.
one you first, yeah.
That is the escrow totals.
Water.
Okay. Apparently we've got the escrow totals for water. We will include that in our minutes. I'll give it to Myrna, so she will include it in our minutes.
We said two checks for 200 for the water escrow.
Yeah, approximate gallons sold, 2,059,247. No shut-off notices because we're not shutting anybody off. And we've got 781.29 in foreclosure. And then we got several checks that need to be approved here.
Besides the 200 he did.
Total amount of escrow is $450, looks like. we'll give her the information and she will include it in our minutes. All right. Anything else? Thank you for attending. We will probably do this again at our next meeting, do both Zoom and in-person meeting.
Okay.
All right, meeting adjourned.
All right. See you later.
So we have a noise ordinance.
We do have a noise ordinance.